Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 25 of the Juvo Hub podcast. We're so grateful that you have joined us here today. We are also now on YouTube. And as always, you can tell I'm always excited because of our guests and our hosts. So let me introduce our wonderful, awesome, fantastic guest, Mindi McCorkle. She works in all of the local associations in the North Carolina area. She owns her own business. She's a thought leader. She has got so many descriptive titles in her LinkedIn. Let me just kind of highlight a couple of them that I love: Breaking Molds, Transforming the Norm, author, coach, speaker, and many more. And I've known Mindi for many years. So Mindi, welcome to the show. So glad to have you.
Hey, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm excited. I'm excited to join you guys today.
Yeah, we're going to get into a really important and awesome topic too. So before we jump into that, so let's see, what synonym can I think of Mark today? Mark the Magnificent. How about that one?
I like that. I
Yeah.
like that. That's great.
Welcome, my
Let's stick
friend.
with that.
How are you?
I'm good, buddy. I'm excited about this. Another fellow, trainer and believer and leadership sort of pusher. So I'm excited about this conversation with us and Mindi. So Mindi, thank you so much for jumping on and being a part of our show. I can't wait to actually get started and us kind of figure some things out. Maybe we'll change the world today. You never know.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and that's kind of like what our subject's about, So Mindi, you and I, when we were talking about the show and kind of getting ready for it, the subject that you and I came to a conclusion on was not changing the game. We always use that, like, let's be a game changer, but rather creating a new one. And I thought, wow, what a resonating subject. So like, where are you at? Like, why that topic? And what are you talking about with people? And how are you steering them on this line of thinking, if that's an okay question to kind of get the discussion going?
Absolutely. It's a perfect question. And honestly, with everything we've been through, and I know we are all tired of talking about COVID. I don't want to talk about that. Not many of us do. We've talked it to death and we're tired of it. We're ready to move past.
Yeah.
But what we've been through has changed all of us. Our customers are not the same. Our associates are not the same. Our emotions are different. Our passions are different. Our focus is different. Our priorities, our tolerance levels are different. So even if we've come through all of this with the same group of people, the same associates, the same customer bank, they're different people. They've changed. And if we go back to doing things the way we were doing them before the pandemic, we're not going to meet their needs. We're not going to be in a place to be successful and keep those associates and keep those customers. So I really feel like if now's the perfect time, if we're not looking at revamping and taking things apart and rebuilding them and starting from scratch and starting fresh, now we're missing an opportunity to be more successful in the future.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. One of the things you mentioned when we were chatting about this is, and I feel in some way like people are using the expression, oh, I can't wait to get back to. I can't wait to get back to. I want to get back to this. And in many contexts, that's fine. Yeah, we want to get back to our family time, or our being able to go on vacation and feeling safe. But in this context, from your perspective, we shouldn't, from a business perspective, from a leadership perspective, our minds should be maybe not wanting to get back to. Can you give us some thoughts on that? Maybe why, or like what should we be kind of be focusing our attention on right now?
Yeah, absolutely. You're absolutely spot on. If we start thinking about going back to the way things were, that just doesn't make any sense. We have learned so much when all of everybody's business had to pivot. We had to flex, we had to adjust, we had to adapt, we had to change the way we were doing things. And we learned a lot about productivity, balance, processes that that weren't working, or
Yeah.
processes that got kind of pushed to the side and weren't being done anymore, and nobody missed them. So we've got to capture all of that. We've got to use what we learned during that, even things like just something as simple as all these virtual meetings and Zoom meetings and things that we're doing, are we need to revamp that. We need to look at that and think, we were meeting to death before the pandemic. So why are we still meeting to death? Why are we still so consumed with back-to-back meetings all day, every day? How can we do that differently? What are some other strategies, even if we have to do the virtual meetings, and I don't think they're going away by any stretch of the imagination. I think we'll continue to see the virtual component be a huge part of our day-to-day world, but approaching that from a different perspective, making them more efficient, making them more conducive to productivity. And that may be something as simple as the time of day, or how many you do in one day or in a week, things like that. Things like our employee perks and benefits, awards programs and training programs, and the evaluation process. I had a client the other day talk about, it's the time of year when we gear up for our annual employee evaluation process. And I just about wanted to come out of my skin, because we can't just do it the way we've always done it. We've
Right.
not been through the same thing we've been in the past. And again, our employees, even though they may be the same employees, they're different. They've changed, and they're stressed. Our frontline associates are, they've been on a roller coaster ride for a year and a half now, almost over a year. And their emotions are different. And like I said, their balance is different. Their priorities are different. Tolerance is different. All of that's different. And so all those processes need to be different. They need to adjust to what the employee needs today, not what they needed pre-pandemic.
I love
It's
this
totally different.
topic on change. Mindy, it's interesting. I wrote a little class about change and your plan. What's your plan? And it doesn't. We can talk about COVID, what changed you about that last year of COVID. But even if we took COVID out of the picture, what I do love about this topic, change, is that life is all about change, right? We're going to be met with changes every day that will ultimately change how we do processes, how our sales cycle is done. But that's also a generational thing. Like the generations, as they have evolved, they want to do things differently. Technology has evolved. Back when I can remember being in sales or a leasing consultant, there was only one or two ways that we could really take someone on a tour. But now, like, imagine all the different ways that we were sort of forced with 2020 to adapt, and that change was kind of forced on us. But I think you're right. It's not about going back to, it's about embracing what did you learn about yourself or about your organization that was a good change. What good came out of 2020? I mean, my gosh, I know for myself, I don't claim to ever be a very technically savvy person, but I definitely had to learn how to operate Zoom and some other technical things and get it on my phone and all this stuff, because that's how people wanted to communicate, right? And it's really the only way we had to communicate. But I think it's interesting, a lot of the younger generations, they were already so quick to pick up on that type of process. And you're right. I mean, I think that this is something that it's going to stick with us. This change will just keep evolving. So we either get on board or, boy, it'll just run right over us. But yeah, this change it's kind of fascinating. Like sometimes I look at what changed me last year of 2020. What did I love? What were the things that I learned that were bad about me that I maybe want to try to let go of? But what did I learn about myself that I can say, oh my gosh, there's a whole new way of doing business with technology, and now this new customer base that, some people may actually want to do more virtual sales. I don't know. I'll be very curious to see what we're onto here.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you think about all the things that we learned that we were doing some things right. we also learned that we were doing some things very antiquated and not in keeping with the younger generations and the current customer base and the current associate base. And that's why I think it's really important for us to take this opportunity as things start to open back up and loosen back up and shift back to, and I hate to say the word back, but shift to that place where we think we're more in that normal area. That's not going to magically heal the stress. That's not going to magically heal the exhaustion. That's not going to magically heal the pain and everything that frontline essential worker has gone through. And I really think if now's the time to take those processes, take those procedures, even take your company culture, dissect it, break it down, and build it back up. Using some of the good stuff that was still there, but flexing and adding and changing some of the things that need to change to fit who we are today. Because again, we're not the same people. I'm not the same person. At the core, we're all the, we're still the same people, but we've learned, we've evolved. And we've got to pull our policies and our processes into that evolution too, or we really are going to set ourselves up for more pain in the future, I think.
I kind of wonder, there's a few things that you said, Mindy. It sounds like the question we have to ask ourselves is, was this disruptive enough to shake us into making a change? Like did we learn our lessons, so to speak, from a business leadership standpoint to make sure? And I have that like visual. It's like just, we've heard enough stories. I was thinking when you were sharing some items there, a friend of mine on one of his podcasts, I don't know if you guys know Mike Brewer from Radco Residential, but he told us a real short story about a CEO of an airline, and the airline was just known for always being late. Every flight was always late. This is going back a few decades. But the CEO, the only way he was going to enact change was to take the lead in change. And so he showed up at a board meeting an hour late. And that was what he did. That was his way of like, that was disruptive enough, because you can imagine everybody's like, where is he? How come are they? We're supposed to be starting. All that stuff that's happening. And then he walks in and they're like, wow, where have you been? And he's like, that's what our customers feel.
That's right.
Change.
Mm-hmm.
So like, what do you think about that, Mindy? Like what would be like our, do we get the point kind of message? Like, was it disruptive enough? And what do we need to remember in order to, like you said, start from scratch, get a new game?
That's a great question and a great way to think about it, because you're right. I think we'll see a huge difference in the people, the companies, the leadership, the decision makers that were disrupted enough and are awake now and realize that they've got to change things. And then there'll be some that are still focused on what we talked about a minute ago. Let's go back. Let's get back to the way things were. Let's go back to the way we were doing things. I had a conversation with the leader the other day, and he said, I want you to help me rally the troops and get them back in the office and get them, back tied to their desk all the time. And I said, why?
Right.
Why? Tell me why you want to do that. And he couldn't answer the why, and after he fumbled for a few minutes, he was like, well, but that's how we do. That's how we work. Like, that's how we worked then. Let's talk about how we can do it now. So I think, to your point, I think what we're going to have to do to make sure that we're awake is remind ourselves that as yucky as this last couple of years has been, and as painful as it was, and as much as we all hope we never have to go through anything even remotely close to this again, something else is going to come along that makes us have to change.
Right.
Absolutely.
So think about that. Think about, okay, what if the next big thing that changes makes us have to do all this pivoting and flexing again.
Mhm.
What can we do to prevent the pain that came with that immediate flexing? How can we strategize and set ourselves up now to be ready for that flex when it happens? And it's probably going to be something a little bit different for each company, depending on how their culture and their values and their strategy. But that's what I'm doing. I'm trying to remind myself that, yes, while a little part of me is sitting here going, whew, I made it. Whew, I made it through this. I
Yeah.
can't believe it. I made it through this. And I'm celebrating that, but I'm also not getting so comfortable that I'm forgetting that something else is coming. Some other big change that I have no control over and that I probably don't know is coming is going to hit. And I'm going to have to be able to flex then too. So if we remind ourselves that and remember, we don't have control over that. Something else is going to come along, whether it's a change in the economy or, whatever it is, whether it's something else big like this.
Mhm.
If we're not prepared and we're not setting ourselves up now to flex, then we're going to go through the same pain we went through.
It's funny, Mindy, you're absolutely onto something incredible, because whether, and again, I liked you said, let's not talk about COVID. We can talk about change without even bringing up COVID, because if I look at the world we live in today, not even mentioning the disaster of COVID, our world is constantly changing right in front of my eyes, because people are demanding change. They want change. And I'm not just talking about one industry, but I am talking about just a human nature. And you're saying, like, what could be the next change? Well, my gosh, the next few things that I see on our ticket are going to be, embracing diversity and inclusion and these types of things. Like, that's already at our doorstep, and it should have been on our focus for many, many years. But now it's kind of like this change is knocking on the door, and people need to start changing their culture and their companies to embrace, like, these younger generations. What is it? Millennials make up 80% of our workforce and our resident base.
Mm-hmm.
And millennials, now we've got, what is the next one? Z's? Are they Z's?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They are going to come to the workforce with a whole new set of parameters and rules. They are not going to want to be tied to their desks. They're going to want to be elevated in different ways. They're going to want to see a company culture that is very, very different from what the three of us here, might have experienced before. So that mentality of going, let's go back to the way things were. Oh, buddy, ain't going to happen.
No.
Nobody wants that anymore. This world does not want that. And I think a lot of companies have realized that their employees, many companies thrived during the pandemic, not working in an office, because it was the new world. So I love it. I think you're absolutely right. There is going to be change going to be knocking soon on someone's door. And if we're not teaching leaders how to teach their employees or how to embrace that change, like you say, flexing those muscles, they're going to miss the mark. That scares me, because I think, many leaders kind of, they might be so close-minded. I thought of something when you said that this person wanted to help me get people back into the office to sit at their desks, and what I hear repeated is this: well, we pay for the space. I need to see them at their desk. So if you don't see them sitting at that desk, you don't think that they're doing their job. It's that kind of thought process. But I'll tell you one thing that I did learn about a lot of the people that I work with is that 2020 did not necessarily mean because they were out of sight that they weren't working. They worked harder, and what I realized is that we have to embrace the fact that there are so many now new ways that people want to work remotely. And that brought back a sense of more work-life balance, which made the employee happier. So I will be very curious to see what, like you say, what change is coming next, because we got a lot of big topics as far as, human nature, just that human element. Like, there's a lot of changes that will be affecting a lot of industries.
Absolutely. You're absolutely right. And who wants to be normal anyway? I mean, and when people talk about wanting to go back to normal, who wants to be normal. We should want more for ourselves. One of the things that comes that I've thought about a lot in the last couple months is Maya Angelou's quote where she says, do the best you can until you know better. And when you know better, do better. Well, we know better now.
Yeah.
We know more. We know better things about how to set up that productivity and how to allow people to work to still produce as much, probably even more in a lot of cases, without the restrictions of being tied to that desk or being in that office a set number of hours. And even from a scheduling perspective, even at the property level, there's flexibility there that we've not looked at before. And I think that's one of the changes you're talking about, Mark, where with the new up and coming generations coming into play. That's one of the reasons that we've really got to look at that associate experience, that the things like the onboarding and the recruiting process and the incentive packages and the vacation and PTO processes and all of that needs to be reevaluated now so we can be prepared for when our employees truly, because they're going to demand it. To your point, Mark, they're going to demand it. They're not going to just take it because it's all they can get. They're going to keep looking until they find what fits their needs and the way they want to work. And we're not going to, talent pool is shallow enough in a lot of the roles in our industry as it is. Mm-hmm. We're going to make them even shallower if we don't flex and reevaluate all that kind of stuff now.
Mm-hmm. Mindi, your business name just, put a whole bunch of thoughts. So it's like your company name is Enhanced Talent Development. And I know you teach, you do classes, and you work with a lot of both inside the industry and outside the industry. You work on subject like what we're talking about today. But I couldn't help but think of, all of us who are listening to this show, our takeaway needs to be, well, what is my talent? Like, what am I enhancing? What am I bringing to the table? What am I developing? What am I changing? Or am I, like you mentioned earlier, boy, I can't wait to go back to the way things are. And that's just it's not going to work. And Mark, to your point, just the generations that are coming in. Yeah. Like, and Mindi, you said it too. Like, we're having a hard time getting quality people in some geographic locations because it's just not there. And we have to be able to present a much better picture about that work-life balance, mental health, and what we're doing in education and in the associate experience, like as you mentioned. So awesome. Yeah, like that, just amazing conversation, Mindi. Like, so to kind of wrap things up, like you mentioned as before we started recording the show, that you have a mantra that you like to share, that you do for yourself, for work. Do you mind telling us what that is and like why you came to that and how it's helped you?
Absolutely. I love to. That's one of the process I go through. I started it when I first started out on my own, when I walked away from that steady paycheck and started this new journey about 8 years ago now. I thought, you know what, I've got to have something that grounds me, that keeps me focused and keeps me motivated and inspired. So every year I spend some time coming up with the mantra for that year. And at the beginning of 2020, before any of this started, early 2020, actually probably late 2019, I started working on my 2020 mantra. And I had no idea when I came up with it how pertinent and relevant it was really going to be. It was more about my vision and what I wanted it to do, to be like, what I wanted the year to be like. Mm-hmm. And it was so relevant and so pertinent, and that I pulled it forward into 2020 instead of creating a new one or 2021 rather. Instead of creating a new one this year, I just crossed out 2020, 2021. Yeah. It was so pertinent. So I'm going to share it with you. It's a little longer than most mantras, but it's: let's not teach, let's learn together. Let's not just keep up, let's set the pace. Let's not be game changers. Let's create a new game. Let's stand tall without casting shadows. Speak kindly or not at all. Uphold our values without apologies. And listen intently to others without thought of our reply. Let's be intentional and real and open to new possibilities. And above all else, let's stay aligned with our purpose in life. For to do otherwise is to betray yourself.
Whoa.
Wow.
Whoa.
I read that to myself every single morning.
I was
Whoa.
going to say, that sounds like a little devotional or a prayer. I love that.
Wow. Wow. That's awesome. Mark, what do you think?
Look, Mindi, I'm surprised our paths have not crossed sooner. I feel like you've been in my brain picking at things, or I've been in yours. We share obviously the same feelings on this topic, and I'm so glad that I got to spend time with you today. I think that your insight is spot on. You know what? Changes, I love it. It's not, I love what you said about, don't be a game changer. Let's just create a new game, right? Like you said, nobody wants to be normal. What's normal anymore? So I'm with you, lady. You let me know when you want me to come over, and we'll jump in the car together and change the world. I'm very excited about the things that you do and this topic. So thank you so much for being on here with us today.
Absolutely. It has truly been an honor. I love the conversation, and I just loved hanging out with you guys and listening to your perspective as well.
Yeah.
Well, let's just do this every day. You can read your mantra to us every morning. And look, that'll be the way we start our day.
Fantastic.
Oh, that is great. Yeah, no, Mindi, you've always inspired me. I've known you for quite a few years now, and I'm sure your clients and the apartment associations and others, and appreciate your insight and what you bring to the table. And so grateful to have you on the show today. So how can people connect with you? Like, what's your website? How can people reach out?
EnhancementTD.com.
Okay.
Or Facebook, Enhancement TD, Mindi at EnhancementTD.com. If you want to email, social media, LinkedIn. I'm all over the place. I spend way more time on social media than I would really choose to personally, but that's where the action is, and that's what's keeping us connected. So Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, website, email. Love to hear from you. I just love to hear about people's successes. So if you're out there listening and you have a success, share it with me and we'll celebrate together.
There we go.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. We'll make sure all of those are in the blog notes and the show notes for people to connect with you. So thank you again for being here. And my main man, Magnificent Mark, another industry speaker, trainer, fantastic dude. How can people connect with you?
Yes, absolutely. Mark at HOWL. I'm sorry, I spell my last name is Howell, but I do spell my company HOWL like Howl at the Moon. So it's Mark at Howl, HOWL, creativeconcepts.com, or my website is howlcreativeconcepts.com. But look, I tell you, I'm with you, Mindi. If anybody just wants to share some success stories with any one of us on this panel here, I'm looking at all of our photographs here, reach out to us. Let us know if you have a topic that you're wanting to talk about that you think could be motivational, then also let us know. But Mindi, I'm putting you down on my list of someone to get back in touch with 6 months from now and say, as a repeat guest, to tell me, like, lady, what has changed? Like, what's going on in your world? Tell me, because I like you, I still feel like we're still living in the same year. Like 2020 never really transitioned into 2021. So when it does and things really do change, I want to have you back so we can talk about what has changed. What new game have you created? So
fantastic.
Great.
I would love to. I'm here anytime you guys need me.
Good.
We will have you back. There's no doubt about that. I'm totally with Mark on that. Been a great show, inspirational show. Love the mantra, love all of it. So Thank you, everyone, for being here today. My name is Jonathan Saar from Market Me Social. And please, if you can, give us a thumbs up, give us a review, share this with your network, tell other people about this show. We appreciate your support so much, and we're grateful that you took the time to listen or watch the show today. So we'll see you guys next time. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.